It's Sex, Drugs, and Permaculture on 180 Radio.
We're talking sex and relationships with Chris Ryan, co-author of Sex at Dawn, which he wrote with his partner, Casilda Jata. See what people can do when they work together. We're talking about sexual relationships, but also intimacy. In the last episode, we talked about our inheritance as a civilization, whether we really are this till death do us part species that everybody seems to have so much trouble with, or whether our long-term inheritance as hunters and gatherers helps us make more sense of the way that we feel and act. Multiple partners over a lifetime, without all these rules about till death do us part, raising children in groups, tribally, rather than in nuclear disaster families. All of these ideas are in the book, and they're in the last episode. This time, we're going to focus on intimacy.
Like last night, I was having dinner with a couple who have an open relationship, and they were talking about how their friends assume that sex is a really important part of their lives, whereas in actuality, sex is probably a much less important part of their lives, because they've recognized that their marriage isn't about sexual exclusivity. It's about so many other things that they share.
The sex after the testosterone goes down a little bit, late 30s, early 40s, you want somebody to talk with, to communicate with.
Snuggle with.
That's
my girly.
Yeah, to snuggle with. I'll use the word to have and to hold, but yeah, but not to own. Because the human experience, the human psyche becomes this unfolding, sort of a landscape.
How different human societies were before agriculture. We coined a term in the book, Flintstoneization, which is this idea that, you sort of look at the world around you and you project that into the past and say, well, prehistory must have been more or less like now, just, a little different, a little more primitive. So they had cars, but you had to pedal them with your feet, and they had, doorbells, but you had to pull the bird's tail to make the doorbell squawk,
Right.
Yabba dabba doo.
Yeah, exactly. And,
I could do Betty Rebel laugh.
That's good. That's good.
Thanks.
There's a section in the book on mating, marriage, and I don't remember the rest of it, but the idea of that section is to really get into this idea of what is marriage? What do we mean when we say marriage? Because, even the Mosuo that we were just talking about, anthropologists list them as one of the societies in the world that practice marriage. That's what is that? That's not marriage. And so many of these societies in the Amazon, for example, where we say marriage, they have a marriage ceremony and they're married couples. In some of those societies, all it takes to be married in the anthropologist's eyes is for the woman to take her hammock and hang it next to a man's. And then the anthropologist says, oh, okay, now they're married. And then a couple months later, the woman gets sick of that guy. She takes her hammock and hangs it next to a different man. Oh, they're divorced, and now she's married that one. Wait a minute. There was no ceremony. There's no exchange of property. There's no sexual exclusivity. There's no assumed obligation of childcare. So how do you call that marriage?